Hi guys, and thank you for joining me again. Today I want to talk about the topic of job security. I believe that most people nowadays will have multiple careers, which means that they will either have multiple jobs at the same time or that they will be changing careers 1, 2, or more times as a result of the changes that we will face in automation, AI, but also because most people will increasingly have longer lives, up to 100 years or longer. And even though not all people will drastically change their careers, but at least they will find it necessary to make some adjustments to their careers in order to stay competitive. The question of job security is relevant to everyone, whether or not you already have a job or a great career now, or you are still studying and you are looking for a job. And the reason is because in future, job security will be something that will become increasingly rare. Regardless of how dramatic you think that AI and automation will develop in future, the fact is that a very wide range of jobs will disappear in future. And I'm not talking about 50 or 100 years here, but I'm talking about the next 5 to 10 years. There is a study by the University of Oxford that says that 47% of all US jobs will be replaced by robots and AI in the next 15 to 20 years. Think about that, 47% is almost half of all jobs. Now, do you think that your job will be among these or not? But many people are still ignorant of this development and they still believe that there's such a thing as job security. Just because the fact that they are working for a large corporation doesn't mean that their job is secure. Some people think that they will be able to keep their job all the way through until retirement. But unfortunately, this is quite unrealistic. Even in Japan, where the companies are known to provide their employees with lifelong employment, this is no longer the case. Because in the end, one of the goals of any kind of business is to make profit. And one of the ways is by reducing the costs. So if they can reduce costs by swapping out their workers with robots, with automation, then they will do it. In short, everything that can be automated will likely be automated. Let's take, for example, waitressing. Nowadays, there are more and more restaurants that are popping up which replace their waiters and waitresses with robots. At first, we might think that waiters are not likely to be replaced by robots because after all, when we go to a restaurant, we do want that human interaction with that waiter who can give us suggestions about the menu. But a study has come out that showed that especially younger people, the millennial generation, Generation Y and Z, prefer to interact with robots. And this is mostly the case for cheaper restaurants and fast food joints where perhaps the people going to it just want to quickly get some food, eat, and then get out again. And what that means is that if your skill as a waiter or waitress is only your ability to take orders from the customer, serve them food, and then give them the bill, take the payment, then that are things that are processes that are very easily taken over by a robot. So which kind of jobs are most at threat? Naturally, lower skilled jobs are more likely to be taken over by robots in near time because robots are able to complete tasks faster, more accurate, and also at a much cheaper cost. But don't get me wrong, this is not a doomsday scenario because while a lot of jobs will be disappearing in future, there are also going to be a lot of new types of jobs that will be created. And we might ask ourselves, what kind of jobs will those be? Or more generally, what will the jobs of the future demand of us? Keep on watching till the end of the video where I will try to answer this question for you. There's a joke circulating in Silicon Valley relating to the future of work that says that the factories of the future will have 2 employees, a man and a dog. The man will be there to feed the dog, and the dog will be there to prevent the man from touching the machines. If you think about this image, a man and a dog, I mean, it's quite cute, but actually, if you think about it, it's quite eerie. And it should set off an alarm in people to think about where they are at now with their job and their skills and whether or not they are sufficiently prepared for the future. But the reality is that most people don't give it any thought at all. Perhaps this is a future scenario that is too abstract for them. It's too far away. And after all, there are so many other things to think about, so many other problems to face. AI, automation, job security is something to think about another day, but not today. If you take a look at the recent developments in AI and automation, then you will think totally differently about about this. Have you seen the robot Sophia?
Sophia, are robots going to take our jobs?
Only if you want us to. Robots can take over the most dangerous, the most menial, the most repetitive jobs to free humanity to do what it does best, creating, innovating, and designing a better world.
And if people think that only low-skilled jobs are at risk, then I'm sorry, but they're mistaken. Today, it's not just people performing manual labor who are seeing their jobs threatened, but also white-collar workers such as journalists, travel agents, real estate salesmen, bankers, insurance agents, accountants, lawyers, and doctors. Virtually no profession is safe. All are feeling the impact, at least somewhat, from the automation of work, says Oppenheimer. Andres Oppenheimer is the author of this awesome book that I've read recently, The Robots Are Coming, The Future of Jobs in the Age of Automation. So if you're curious to know what is exactly happening in each of the industries and how automation and AI is likely to impact the specific job you have or a job that you are after, then this is a very good book that will be very eye-opening and give you a lot of insight into that. And in the section where he talks about the medical industry, he talks about pharmacists. And we all know that pharmacists are very highly educated, very well medically trained professionals, right? But at the University of California in San Francisco, they developed a robot that has filled over 2 million prescriptions without making a single mistake.
This process automates and follows the medication all the way from our receipt from the manufacturer to the bedside.
Now compare that to the human pharmacist who on average makes a mistake in about 1% of all the prescriptions that they fill. Now let me ask you a question. Who would you like to fill your prescriptions in that case? If you are interested to know in more detail about how AI and automation will impact the specific industry which you are working in now, please let me know in the comments and I might make another video specifically regarding that. But as I said earlier, I am not a pessimist in regards to automation and AI at all. I mean, there are going to be plenty of dangers and risks that come with the development of AI and automation. But at the same time, there are also going to be tremendous benefits for all of humanity, especially in the area of productivity and lowering costs. So while there may be people who think that AI is just scary, or there are other people who think that AI is just cool, the actual relevant question for us to ask is how AI and automation will impact the jobs that we have now or the jobs that we want to have in future and ultimately our livelihoods. And this brings me back to the main question of this video, which is, so which jobs are actually secure and what are the criteria for a secure job? And because there are so many reasons that actually influence whether a job is secure or not, so not only AI and automation, but also macroeconomic development, customer demand, and so on, it might be easier to flip the question around and instead ask ourselves which jobs are likely to be replaced. And I want to quote an expert from Andres Oppenheimer's book. Anders Sandberg, PhD in computational neurosciences, says, "It's quite simple. If your job can be easily explained, it can be automated. If it can't, it won't." So I think while this rule of thumb sounds very generic, it is actually very clear. If you have a job that consists of tasks that can be broken down very neatly and clearly and which can be unambiguously defined, then it is very easy to be taken over by a robot. And even if the job cannot be automated in its entirety, then at least some sections of it will be. Let's look at the world of journalism for an example for this. You know the section in newspapers or in online news where the temporary results of voting during election seasons or temporary game scores of a football game, for example, are listed. So those are parts of the news that can be easily automated by using templates. It means for these sections and other similar sections of the news, journalists are no longer needed. But that doesn't mean that journalists are no longer needed or that news companies are going to do away with them. No, that doesn't mean that at all. What follows from this is that only those journalists who will be able to provide added value will be able to survive. And I think that this is the case and will increasingly become the case in any kind of job and career in the future. If you want to be able to compete, then you must be able to provide added value, not only in comparison to your other peers, to other people, but especially in comparison to robots. Right now, we might still laugh it off a bit, and the reason is because we look at the kind of robots that exist now and see that their abilities are still quite clumsy, and we can't quite imagine them taking over our jobs that seem to be so complicated and sophisticated. So what does this all mean for us? It means that we cannot afford to be complacent. We might be fine for now or for the next 3 to 5 years, but what happens after that? We might wake up one day and be surprised to find out that our skills are no longer relevant. And it's not as easy to just simply change your career within a matter of a few months. It takes years and years to upgrade your skills and accumulate the experience you need in order to shift into a new career or upgrade your career. So I think that rather just sitting back and waiting to be taken over by that wave of automation and AI, it's better to prepare ourselves preemptively by constantly trying to be on the lookout on what kind of jobs will be in demand in the future and how we can upgrade our own knowledge and our skills and also our experiences to be prepared for that. And even if you plan on staying in your current job and career because you simply just love it so much, then at least take some time to break down the job and think about what parts of the job you think will be automated in future and which parts can you actually expand and develop in order to provide an added value on top of that. I hope that this video has given you a new perspective on the future of work. Please also let me know in the comments whether there are any insights that you got from this video that might influence your future job hunt or the way that you plan your career in future. As I mentioned earlier, I think that multiple careers are increasingly going to be a thing in the future. So if you are curious to know more about this, then you might want to check out my other video that I'll put in the link above here. Also check out my channel for other videos on career change, multiple careers, and also motivation. As always, I thank you so much for watching. I wish you all the best, and I'll catch you again soon.